Hey guys, I'm Jackie Brubaker, host of the Love You Even More podcast. I'm an author, performer, producer, and Emmy Award winner. Each week, I bring on inspiring people and experts in their field to have powerful, motivational, and enlightened conversations about relationships, self-development, and how you can love yourself even more. Follow us for daily updates at Love You Even More podcast and at Jackie Brubaker on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. For more on myself and the podcast, including ways that you can love yourself even more, go to loveyouevenmore.com. Welcome, Stacey Scott, to the Love You Even More podcast. Stacey is a returning guest because we had such an amazing conversation. I could not stop talking about you to everyone I talked to. I was like, oh my God, she's so interesting. And the way that this all works is so much more beyond like, put your bed at this angle. It was so much more. Excuse me. So you are a Feng Shui expert and a decluttering Feng Shui practitioner and a decluttering expert. And today we're going to really talk about what it means to declutter, what that means for your inner child, why people are having a hard time letting go of stuff in their house, which is, I mean, there are shows all about this, hoarders, it's a thing, and it runs really deep for some people, and for others, we kind of touched on this last time. There's an immense shame that's wrapped up in not cleaning the house or not feeling like you're, getting rid of stuff and all of it. So we're going to talk about that today, but I'm so excited to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me. I know you hit the nail on the head. It's such a deep topic, and this is one that's very close to my heart. So I'm so happy to just be able to dive in.
Yeah. So let's just start with, just for, people who are tuning in for the first time and they're like, I don't really know what Feng Shui is. Just give you a very brief explanation of that so that we can start there.
Yeah. So basically, Feng Shui in a nutshell is just aligning the energy of your home with where you see yourself going in your life. And from where I sit, being a trauma expert and also a trauma survivor myself, it's this idea of the narrative that your home is sharing in this tangible form of color, artwork, furniture placement that really has specifically survivors of trauma really feeling like they're stuck in life, they're held back because they're really reenacting and playing out patterns that were really established in their childhood, of which decluttering is one of those, or difficulty decluttering, or even over decluttering. And we can talk about both because both are two sides of the same coin. And I hope people are ready for that conversation.
Oh gosh, I am on the other side. I love getting rid of stuff. It's my favorite thing to do. I love it. So yes, let's definitely just talk about all of this. Feng Shui is basically how to set up your house. Now, how did you get into the art of it in this way? Because you are a trauma expert, but how did that start for you?
So it started for me because Feng Shui was actually failing. And I had started a business and nothing was working for me. Basically, everything that my mentors were telling me to do, nothing was shaking anything loose. All the people around me are having all these big wins. I mean, and talk about imposter syndrome, talk about like, oh my God, did I blow up my life for nothing? Because before this, I was an occupational therapist in people's homes. And I just thought I had made the worst mistake. And when I started connecting it to my own healing journey, healing from, narcissistic abuse and other forms of abuse in my own childhood, I started to really see that the roots of Feng Shui could go so much deeper. And nobody was talking about it. At the time, everybody was still talking about, well, put the crystal here and put the, plant there, which is not wrong by any stretch of the imagination. But I was like, wow, we are doing such a disservice to our people by not bringing them deeper. And so when I really started connecting this in very tangible ways, that was fit for consumption for other people, people just started having major breakthroughs. I started finally having breakthroughs with the Feng Shui wisdom. And I was like, well, here we go. This is what we're doing. This is what people need. This is of the moment.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I just think this is brilliant. Because I've been following Feng Shui for so long, and I try to keep my house as shuied as possible. But yeah, there's that hiccup where you're like, well, I've done everything I need to do. Why isn't it happening? Why isn't it manifesting? So let's talk about why it's not manifesting. Like, how does someone start to clue in on where it's getting stuck?
Yeah. So it always starts going back to sort of the beginning. And this is where I personally bring in the somatic method of inner child healing, because that's what I have found to be the most profound to move the needle, not only for myself, but for my clients. So we go back to some of the earliest stories that you have when it comes to being in relationship to your space, some of the experiences that you may have had in your home, and how this kind of can align with the narrative that is now coming out as an adult. So for some examples, I primarily do a lot of work with people who have difficulty decluttering. So this may have come down through generational traumas where they had parents, grandparents who couldn't get rid of things themselves. And they grew up maybe in a very cluttered home. And so they themselves became somebody who they would identify as, and I don't love this word, but people call themselves this, a clutter bug or a hoarder, or maybe they had some very traumatic experiences that happened in the home. And now they use possessions to give them that feeling of safety because they don't feel safe in their body. So they're using it almost as a blanket of protection around themselves. So we see that too. And I know I see your face.
Yeah,
Blew
gosh,
your
that
mind.
really makes sense. I've seen that before. And you wonder
Yeah.
what's going on here in this house, but that makes sense.
And my background as an occupational therapist, working in people's homes, I've been in thousands of homes. I've had a front row seat to everything. And I'm talking about homes that are in challenging neighborhoods and homes that are multi-million dollar homes. I've seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting to me because I've been in quote unquote people who have diagnosable hoarding disorder, which by the way is very rare. There's actually a really good systematic review that says I think it's only like 2.4% of all westernized nation have people who actually qualify or reach the threshold for actual diagnosable hoarding. So we have this big boogeyman in our society where if you have one or two things out of place, you're a hoarder, you're a clutter bug. So I just want to throw that out there too, just to notice what you're calling yourself, because you're creating this narrative in your mind, in your home, that you are somehow unworthy by calling yourself these names. But what started to clue me into this was I think I've seen diagnosable hoarding of the thousands of homes I've been in only maybe a handful of times. And they always came with a background of severe trauma. I mean, we're talking severe sexual abuse, physical abuse, CPTSD. And I hated the way in our society we talk about decluttering. We just talk about why you should declutter and why it's so good for you. But nobody touches on the shame of it or the shame of feeling unable to. Especially when everything I saw, it really came with the underlying foundation of some pretty severe trauma. So that's how I got clued into all of this and how I really bring people back to the start of what was some of your earliest childhood memories around how you interacted with your family and your space, how your parents interacted with their possessions really sets the tone for how you interact with yours. And you can either go one side of the pendulum, which is exactly how they did it, because that's what you were modeled, and there's no shame in that. Or you can go the opposite side of the pendulum and completely reject everything you grew up with, which is how I see people who over declutter, which actually was me for a really long time. So I know this exists because my perfectionistic patterns came out in controlling my possessions. I was running away from my emotions. I was in such a deep sense of denial about my childhood and what I experienced that I sought to push everything away, to run away from it, because that's what kept me feeling safe and gave me a sense of control over my environment, because I had no control over my environment as a child. So I threw out everything. But of course, society applauded me for that. And
Right.
I didn't notice that was a trauma response until pretty recently when I was doing this work.
That's so interesting because I'm in that camp where I love to get rid of stuff. Although, and maybe we talked about this with our last podcast, just you and I. For years, I've had a drawer where I stick like mementos in there from like, I went to see this concert, it was this, and I went to do that, and it was that, and like pieces of objects that just fit in a drawer. And when the drawer gets full, I go through the drawer and I put everything I want to keep in a box. And I had been doing this for like 15 years and also had like a whole box of like childhood stuff that I definitely did not like to go through and was like, that's fine in the closet, like away. But I strangely, a couple of months ago, maybe, I was like, I want to go through all of these boxes and scrapbook everything that I want to keep so that I can get rid of them. Because again, it's like, I don't want all that clutter and my garage is getting really full. So I started going through it and it was two things. We do not need to keep most of what we think we need to keep as a memento. Guys, please just, you know what? Take a picture. You'll like it more. It'll mean more to you. And B, it was really interesting to see what was important versus what wasn't important. And I had to get through it. And it was really a challenge to get, especially the childhood years, because my childhood was a little complicated. And it was just hard to get through it. But once it was done, I was like, oh, thank God, let's move forward. So is that what's happening with people who are like, I just want this gone? Like, I just want to move forward. Are they running away from it completely, or are they just trying to move on?
So I think that's such a good distinction to make. And I want to caveat this conversation with this isn't going to be applicable to everybody. I think it's going to be one of those things where you have to see how this fits into your own healing journey, because there is a sense of wanting to detach to move on. Decluttering is fabulous. Like, it's what creates space in our bodies and our lives to welcome in the fresh and the new. New opportunities, blessings, money, jobs, the good shit in life. So I think that's a question that everybody needs to sit with is, am I running away from my feelings, or am I really ready to release this? And I think the answer lies in how are you processing the emotions that come up as you're doing the decluttering? Because I always will connect back to somatics and people's bodies and their minds. So whenever somebody approaches me as like, I'm having trouble decluttering or I'm over decluttering, what do you think? I'm like, what is happening in your body? What are the sensations that are arising? Is it panic? Is it pressure? Is it pain? Is it anxiety? Or is it a feeling of release, of I'm ready for this? You might not always feel peace in your body as you're doing it because it is highly emotional, but where is that emotional cliff for you? Do you find that you're constantly running away from it? You need to go self-soothe in a way that is maybe not best for your health, meaning you're going to scroll, you're going to eat, you're going to put on this emotional support Netflix show. It's really more about noticing what's happening in your body and then the patterns that then come about from that uncomfortable sensation that's arising. And then what's happening in your mind as well. What is your mind saying? Mm-hmm. Is your mind saying like, oh, this sucks, but like, I know I need to do this. Mm-hmm. Or, wow, this was such a great time, but I'm ready to release it now, versus, having really uncomfortable memories pop up of mom or dad being potentially abusive, or a friend saying something really, really mean and nasty to you. And like, it still causes your blood pressure to go up. So it's just, I think, more noticing what's happening in your body. And I know that's not a clear-cut answer, and nobody ever likes me very much for these non-clear-cut answers, but this is how we learn. This is how we move through the world in a more emotionally complete and regulated way within our bodies and our nervous systems.
Absolutely. So if someone is having a really hard time getting rid of things, they think everything is very special, complete opposite of me, where I'm like, I don't need most of this. This is fine. What happens with that? Like, how does that start? How does someone start getting through to trying to let go?
So sentimentality is based in grief, and that's either grief over something that happened or something that could have been.
Mm.
So I had a recent post that got a lot of conversation in the best way about, if let's say a parent or a guardian or somebody in your life promised you something and then didn't deliver, that can create a huge sense of grief, which can create an overabundance of sentimentality for possessions. So if somebody's having a real tough time going down memory lane, they just want to really, really tighten, and they feel that tight resistance in their body around everything, I need you to remember that it's just based in grief, and releasing that grief, meaning feeling it, is one of the best things you can do. Having the good cry, screaming and stomping your feet, dancing, doing something with your body to release that stuck emotional energy. So let me give you some examples, because this always works with examples. So you can be overly sentimental about something that happened. I find that for a lot of people, including myself, I can get overly sentimental about clothes. Oh, I wore this shirt on a great night out with the girls.
Yeah.
I was so pretty. I was 22. That's a sense of grief. And by the way, I'm not 22 anymore.
We're
So
forever 21. That's right.
love it. Love it. So that's just a sense of grief over something that once was, and feeling like I'm currently not enough in my current life, in my current state. Otherwise, I wouldn't hold up that prior experience above where I currently am, because we are so youth obsessed that I think a lot of women feel like they can't get rid of a specific piece of clothing because they need to fit into it again.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Really what we're saying is, why aren't I like that anymore? And I feel bad about myself being a more mature and older woman because society tells me I should feel bad. I should do all these things to be, anti-aging and whatnot. That's a whole other can of worms. So you can have a sense of grief over something that occurred. And that's where I come in with inner child healing. And we really let that girl speak, that prior version of you speak and say what she needs to say. She always has some sort of piece of wisdom to impart, because you're the older and wiser version of you now. And you get to be the parent. You get to be the matriarch, the adult woman, and you can come in and give her wisdom that she maybe needs to hear. So she releases, because really it's always a prior version of us that's kind of coming up in our bodies that's really creating this resistance to decluttering. Or you can have this sense of grief over something that maybe was promised to you and never occurred. So I was chatting with somebody on one of my social media channels, and they had such a great example of this. The person said that they grew up in a really religious household, and the parents would sometimes say, okay, we'll buy you video games, because video games were like super not allowed, but it kind of got dangled. And now as an adult, this person just buys themselves video games. And she said she has over 300 video games. And so I think a lot of us would look at that and be like, oh my God, what a hoarder. But I look at that and I say, okay, you have now satisfied your inner child with these video games. They bring you joy. They make you happy. And in the very next breath, she was like, I know. And I know it's time to release them, because she feels complete now. So instead of just like jumping to, you have to declutter all of this. You're only allowed 7 books. You're only allowed 10 shirts, capsule wardrobe.
Yeah.
I need us to take a step back and really understand where this is coming from. And this woman completely of her own her own brain, her own power was like, yeah, no, I know it's time to release them. So I'm going to start doing that work. So you can even be sentimental around something that was promised to you that like didn't happen, that you now need to like want to fill that inner void. And it's okay to fill that void. You just have to start to notice when that coping mechanism no longer works for you.
Ooh, that's very true. That's the power right there, is knowing like, sure, I could buy 100 more video games or whatever it is, but
Mhm.
it's not fixing anything. It's not quenching anything. And I'm so glad that she got to that place of like, okay, I
Yeah,
get it. I'm done now. Because sometimes you do just oddly just need to do what you didn't get as a kid, or get what you
totally.
didn't get as a kid. I actually went to go visit a friend of mine who has a horse, and it was so magical. And I was like, oh my God, I just love this. And I wanted a horse forever. I still do, by the way. This is not like gone.
We need to get you a horse.
We need, yeah. I was like, how do I lease a horse? And so I'm totally serious actually, but being there, it just felt, I think what's hard, and this is part of the grief, right, is that as a kid, I really did want one, not because every girl wants a pony, but I really did want a horse. I took lessons, like, I really wanted one. And still, as a full grown woman, I'm like, no, this makes me so happy. Like, I feel so at home here. I really do want this. And I think, to give myself that, I'm not buying a horse, again, leasing a horse would really help heal some of that, because that was dangled, just like you talked about. And I think parents do this maybe not knowing what they're doing, but it does leave a real lasting effect.
Yeah.
Did she get rid of her video games?
We stopped chatting at that point, but I just had a good feeling. I was like, she'll get there, even if it takes time. It's
Yeah.
okay. Like she will get there.
Yeah.
And what I like to tell people, because then of course the next question that arises, well, how do I know that my coping mechanism isn't working for me anymore? I was
Mm.
like, you already know just by asking that question, is you knowing, just by you becoming aware of it and asking yourself these questions and having it bother you, is that coping mechanism breaking down. And that's such a beautiful place to be in, because it is triggering to you, but you won't move without the trigger because you won't have the awareness of it. You won't see it. So triggers are such beautiful blessings in disguise. And our home is full of triggers. I call them space triggers, which on one side is why so many people feel uncomfortable in their space, but it's also gives me as the practitioner and the coach and the person who gets to come in and be like, oh, it's full of triggers. Yes, let's break this down. You have so many blessings that are waiting to come into you, that, let's stop pushing them off. They're ready for you. They want you.
So, something that I see it kind of happen with people that I know is they have a lot of different pieces of furniture in their house that are from their parents or their grandparents. And I'm not talking about like antique pieces, like, oh, this is a piano that my grandmother used and blah, blah, blah. But like full on everything, like I took my childhood home, everything in it, and then I put it in my home. I actually knew someone like this,
Mm.
and it was like a time capsule. It was really disturbing, to be honest. And all I could feel was just, there's so much grief. That's really what it feels like, is even the coffee table books were from the childhood home. Like
Mm.
nothing was of theirs. So when it's something like that, is it just there's a tremendous amount of grief, or are they trying to just hold on to that era?
So this is such a good example because there could be a lot of things rolled up in there. Um, I like how you use the word era because it certainly can be that where somebody's trying to recreate either something that they had or something that maybe they didn't have in that sense, whether or not they had a childhood that they are trying to recreate, or maybe they didn't, and they're trying to somehow change the narrative using the same possessions.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, my mind just popped up to an example, especially when I was an occupational therapist. I was going into older adults' homes, And I wasn't doing feng shui. I was doing something called aging in place design, where I was helping seniors age in place. And what I noticed was the decor of a lot of these homes, not all of them, but the ones who really were doing the most successful aging was the decor that had actually changed with the times. It
Mm.
didn't mean that they had the fanciest of things. It just meant that it kept kind of reflecting. I'm not a trends person, but it kept kind of reflecting the trends. And some of the people that I felt like I couldn't help with what I was going in with, which is what led me down this path to feng shui, was really the homes that looked like they had been frozen in time,
Right.
especially from the 60s and the 70s,
Yeah.
where, you'd walk in and there's wood paneling and shag carpets and, crushed velvet, very, very 70s vibe, which I know is coming back around, but very, very different. And it almost gave you a sense of like, this is the last time that maybe they felt wealthy or they
Mhm.
felt good in their lives. So there is definitely can be a sense of that where we feel like we need to freeze our homes, because then we're trying to freeze time. I
Mhm.
actually saw that in my own life. Just recently, this came to me. I'm still learning things about my own connection to my space. It's so wild to me. I love this stuff so much. Growing up, on the walls, I just did a whole workshop on color and artwork and the way it changes your narrative. I was thinking about my childhood home, and the artwork on the walls was all family photos, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it was all family photos of, even to this day, me as a baby, my
Mm.
brother as a baby. And they were all photos of us as separate individuals. So they were just baby photos of me, just baby photos of my brother, just singular photos of each parent singular. And this really reflected just how broken of a family unit we were. We all very much did our own thing in the house. There was no cohesion, there was no belonging, there was no togetherness, there was no family memories made. And this absolutely was reflected in the artwork that we had on our walls, or namely, rather, lack of artwork and just these very disparate family photos. And by only having baby photos of me, I know was my parents' way of trying to keep me in that state, and their difficulty seeing me as an adult with my own desires and my own plan for my life. So yeah, yeah, it can be
That's
very
deep.
deep. Yeah.
Yeah. That is so interesting. I think that we can all get a little frozen in time, and I think even with, what we wear and what music we listen to, it's like we really kind of, it's a joke, but it's kind of true. Like we all kind of are who we are in high school forever if we don't do something. and
Yeah.
and I'm so glad that you brought up that the people that you were helping that were older that kept changing their furniture as the trends did change. Um, that gives me a lot of hope because I do that and my mom does that. And so do the women in my family. We're very good at like keeping up with trends. So I'm like,
Yeah.
thank goodness. But yeah, I think getting frozen, whether it's, your home or how you're dressing or what you're listening to. I mean, I'm a musician. So like that really speaks to me. For those of you who don't know, I was in the music industry for like over 10 years as an artist. So I was and a songwriter, which is why I listened to everything, like
Yeah.
every genre, because I needed to know what was trending, what was happening, how music was changing. And I
Yeah.
still do that. And it always, this is my own stuff, but like it always upsets me when I have someone my own age around me that doesn't listen to anything new. Like they just listen to the same stuff from the 90s or the early 2000s. And I'm like, listen, we all love a good throwback, but not like on a daily basis. Like it's freaky. And listen, not to judge, but like it kind of upsets me because I'm like, there's so much more. And so is that part of it that obviously they're just trying to stay in their comfort zone in a way and like cope, but I guess is part of staying frozen just fear of newness, of like growing.
Yeah. It definitely can be. Absolutely. It's like that fear of change, of really letting something new come in. But I think on the flip side, it also goes back to that idea that who we used to be is better than who we are now,
Yeah.
and not really allowing ourselves the joy of who we are now. Um, and at least from where I sit, I love to look at societal forces and how they mold and shape us. And I think a lot of that still goes back to us being youth obsessed.
Yeah.
There's a whole, it's totally not my area, but I'm enjoying watching the drama on TikTok right now about wide leg jeans and versus millennials and their skinny jeans. And I am of the millennial generation. And I'm just really enjoying watching this because at the end of the day, wear what makes you comfortable, but also it's the hatred with which millennials are like, oh, I hate wide leg jeans. And Gen Z is like, I hate skinny jeans.
So silly.
It's very funny to me. So yeah, it's why do we believe that who we used to be is better than who we are now? And I won't get into clothing because of course you have to dress for your body and that's completely out of my purview. But is there an element of you feel less than who you are currently than who you used to be, especially in a youth obsessed culture?
That's so powerful. We should just do an episode on that.
Yes.
Well, let me know, what is the most important thing with decluttering and how someone can actually begin to do that when they feel a lot of resistance? Like, what are some of the first things they can do?
This is a great question. I tell everybody is stop decluttering. Stop trying to force yourself, because what we're really talking about here is your body in resistance, which is just another word for saying fight or flight. And the more we, try and collect little tidbits of information or somebody else's system on how to do it, or try and force yourself, you're putting your body in deeper and deeper states of the resistance, the discomfort, the disquiet, the fight or flight. And really what we need to do first is show your body relaxation, release some of the resistance that comes up, especially if you have difficulty decluttering, release some of the resistance that comes up potentially around some of those early childhood or young adult experiences that are really holding you back, and then slowly moving you through decluttering or cleaning or organizing. To me, they're really all the same. They all have their roots in resistance and some sort of childhood pattern that got established. And really starting there and then systematically moving through it rather than allowing your space to dictate how you declutter, allowing your body to dictate how you declutter. I get this question all the time from people with ADD, ADHD spectrum. I literally got it yesterday on TikTok with somebody saying, well, I really yell at myself if I can't declutter a full area. And I'm like, stop thinking about, well, I need to declutter this whole closet. That is old thinking. That is not trauma informed. Let's flip your perspective a little bit to, hey, did I declutter a little bit? Great. I did a great freaking job today. And that's what my body allowed me to do, rather than shaming yourself for not getting through the whole closet. So again, instead of allowing your space to dictate your decluttering, it's allowing your body to dictate it. Yeah.
I think that is fantastic. And that makes so much sense. I hope that as people are listening, this is starting to resonate and making sense because, and the one thing I really want to talk about one more time, because we did talk about this somewhat, is let's talk about cleaning and like the shame of cleaning and how we were all brought up. We did sort of touch on this, but it is so worth doing a small little snippet of it at the end of here, because go for it. You know what I'm trying to say.
I got you, girl. I got you. So we absolutely so there's no separating how we feel about ourselves and our homes from the culture of which we live. So I always start this conversation with, we need to look at the culture, the society in which we live to understand just how shameful the messages are. And this goes back a little bit to everybody thinks they're a hoarder, and yet hoarding is actually an incredibly rare diagnosis. And I suspect a little bit of that is also in our research communities. We have a bias to kind of hate people who are hoarders a little bit because we speak about them so negatively. But we certainly live in a culture that is hierarchical and says that if you live in the cleanest, trendiest, most organized home, you are the pinnacle of success. You are the person who is, quote unquote, the most successful, thriving the best. And this is what then everybody measures up against, which is a lot of times why, especially new mothers, I'm in that mindset. I'm pregnant right now. New mothers feel like they're failing because they can't, take care of a newborn and keep their house clean. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
So we live in this culture that's hierarchical and says, if you're not this pinnacle, everything else is you're wrong, you're failing, you're unorganized, you're not cleanly. And this is where we start bringing in some of this verbiage of, well, I'm a hoarder, I'm a clutter bug, I just can't do it. I had somebody yesterday say that they thought they lived in a meth lab. Like, this is strong language to be using around your personal space. Because what doesn't get talked about or seen is when you use that language about your home, your body knows that you're talking about yourself. Mm-hmm. You feel that in your own body when you use such strong language, such violent, negative language like that. So when it comes to cleaning, we have to start to separate the messages that you received either from the people in your life and from society. This is where generational trauma can definitely roll downhill. How did your mother speak about herself in the home? What did you see your grandmother doing? What did you see the people who took care of you in your life? How did they speak about themselves in the setting of their homes? Because when we stop using this language so heavily, you are more free and able to see your home as a beautiful extension of yourself, no matter what it looks like. Mm-hmm. Like, I can have dishes all up in the sink and this place can, quote unquote, be a mess. And I can be like, I love you, my home, because I know you're serving me. I don't look at dishes in the sink and shoes by the door as evidence of failure. I look at it as evidence of a life well lived. Yeah. And that's what I try and move people towards, because we can't even begin to have a deeper conversation around what you need in the cleaning space until we start to dissect this avalanche of shame from both family, friends, society at large, and what you really need in your space. Because cleaning can be another element of self-care, but we look at it like it's this terrible thing that we have to do. And granted, who enjoys cleaning toilets? That's not what I'm saying. Nobody enjoys that. But we look at our homes with such a level of anxiety, and we get so stressed. And women especially, then sometimes we can, and this is not to shame anybody, I do this myself, we start to then push that guilt out onto other people, our spouses, our family members, our children. And this is when we start to use cleaning as punishment, because maybe it was used as punishment with us. You can't play with your friends until the dishes are done. You have to do your chores before. And I get that. Parents are trying to run a household, but at the same time, we're setting the next generation up to look at taking care of their space as a shame-based thing, as a punishment.
So powerful. I just love talking to you. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom. Tell people how they can find you.
Come hang out with me. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and coming soon, a YouTube, all under the Sanctuary with Stacey handle, or you can find me on my website at staceyscott.co.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stacey.
Thanks for having me. I love these conversations.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Remember, sharing is caring. Make sure to rate the podcast and leave a review. We really rely on this to help get the podcast out there.